Tomorrow, tomorrow morning, we will read the passage from the book of Deuteronomy that discusses the death of Moses. It's at the very end of the Torah, right before the Israelites cross into the promised land. The Torah reads, "That very day Adonai spoke to Moses, ascend these heights of Abarim to Mount Nebo, which is the land of Moab facing Jericho, and view the land of Canaan, which I am giving the Israelites as their holding. You shall die on the mountain that you are about to ascend, and shall be gathered to your kin, as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor, and was gathered to his kin." The Hebrew word for eulogy is chesped, and according to the Talmud, a chesped is a way to honor the departed and comfort the bereaved. In the Bible, a chesped is more of an act of lament and memory than a formal eulogy. Many biblical figures, including Sarah and Jacob and Saul and Jonathan, receive chesped in the Bible. It's not till later on where chesped turns into what we think of as a eulogy, a tribute to the deceased today. Earlier this week on Yom Kippur, we read the haunting prayer Unatana Tokef, which is our prayer of judgment. We probably know the lines by heart. Who shall live and who shall die? Who by water and who by fire? As we are still in the dates of awe and reflecting on our new year, and there's a tradition that the gates actually don't close until the end of Sukkot. I wanted to take this time, as we often do on the high holidays, to reflect on a few Jews who passed away in 5782. The Jewish comedy world last year lost both Bob Saget and Gilbert Gottfried, two of the filthiest, raunchiest comics around, but both known in their personal lives as kind and compassionate men. Saget and Gottfried each had deep connections to Judaism and the Jewish people. Gottfried was married to his wife under a chuppah in 2007, and his daughter had a Zoom bat mitzvah in April of 2020. Bob Saget had a 30-plus year relationship with his rabbi, Stephen Carr Rubin. Rabbi Rubin's chesped of Saget said that he was a sweet and loving soul who saw his role as a comic as a healer. Bob Saget said himself, "When tragedy strikes, it's more important than ever to look for anything that can bring humor and joy to every moment." The literature world lost A.B. Yehoshua, the Israeli Faulkner, earlier this summer. He was quick-witted and unafraid to be shockingly controversial. A.B. Yehoshua wrote and spoke of the central issues and topics facing modern Israel, from the demise of the two-state solution, his dismay of the lionization of the Western Wall, and his disdain for Israeli settlements, and his disregard for diaspora Judaism. Earlier this summer, Israeli President Isaac Herzog called him one of Israel's greatest authors in all generations, who gifted us unforgettable works which we will continue to accompany us for generations. His works, which drew inspiration from our nation's treasures, reflected us in an accurate, sharp, loving, and sometimes painful mirror image. He aroused in us a mosaic of deep emotions. Mimi Reinhardt died this last year outside of Tel Aviv at the age of 107. Reinhardt was imprisoned at the Plazow concentration camp near Krakow when she was chosen, due to her excellent German and shorthand skills, to work as a secretary instead of being sent to perform hard labor. That assignment ended up saving her life when she went on to type up the list of Jews to be saved by Oskar Schindler, the German industrialist who was later called righteous among the Gentiles for his efforts to save the nearly 1,200 Jews who worked for him. When Reinhardt typed up that list, her own name would be one of the names on it. Estelle Harris died last year at the age of 93. She was born in 1928 New York as the daughter of Polish immigrants who owned a candy store in Manhattan. A talented actor, she became most famous by playing another Estelle, this time Estelle Costanza on Seinfeld. Jason Alexander remembered his TV mom by saying, "One of my favorite people have passed, my TV mama, Estelle Harris. The joy of playing with her and relishing her glorious laughter was a treat. I adore you, Estelle." Tyler Herron, a native of West Palm Beach, Florida, died way too young last year at the age of 35 in October. A career minor league pitcher, Herron joined the Israeli national baseball team and appeared 3 times in the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Despite being ranked outside of the top 40, Israel finished 6th in the WBC. Herron called pitching for Israel the best experience I've ever had in baseball. The jewelry icon Helene Fortunoff died last November in Miami. A trailblazer, she excelled in a world dominated by men. She said, "I always wanted a family and a career, and no one ever told me I couldn't have both," she said. "I generally allowed myself 11 days off for the birth of my children. I had a staff to manage things at home while I worked full-time at the store." Later in life, she became a significant donor to Jewish causes, including creating the endowment for the Fortunoff Video Archive for the Holocaust testimonies at Yale University. This past summer, Stephen Sondheim, the premier American lyricist, died at 91. Born to Jewish parents in New York City, but raised without any formal Jewish background, to the extent that he once asked Leonard Bernstein how to pronounce the words Yom Kippur. Along with Bernstein, he wrote West Side Story at the age of 25, writing, "There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet and open, wait for us somewhere." Rabbi Israel Sy Dressner passed away this past January, a friend of Dr. Martin Luther King. In 1961, as part of the first interfaith clergy freedom rides to the South, Rabbi Dressner of Wayne, New Jersey, and 9 others, known as the Tallahassee 10, were charged with unlawful assembly in trying to integrate an airport restaurant in Tallahassee. In 1964, he led 16 fellow clergymen, including other rabbis, in a protest outside a segregated motel in St. Augustine, Florida. During the demonstration, 5 black protesters plunged into the whites-only swimming pool and were clubbed by the police. Rabbi Dressner said, "We came as Jews who remembered the millions of faceless people who stood quietly watching the smoke rise from Hitler's crematoria. We came because we know that second only to silence, the greatest danger to man is loss of faith in man's capacity to act." As our service this Shabbat turns to another mourner's Kaddish, we remember our own friends and family who passed away this past year and in years past.